the Yonaguni Monument. In 1986, Japanese dive instructor Kihachiro Aratake was exploring waters off Yonaguni, Japan's westernmost island, searching for hammerhead shark sites. What he found instead would ignite one of archaeology's most heated controversies: a massive underwater structure that appears to be a stepped pyramid, complete with terraces, staircases, and precisely carved right angles. The Yonaguni Monument rises from the ocean floor at about 25 meters depth, extending upward in flat platforms resembling an ancient ziggurat. The main structure measures approximately 150 meters long and 40 meters wide. The geometric precision is striking: perfect 90-degree angles, flat horizontal surfaces, and what appear to be carved steps leading between levels. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyus began studying the formation in 1997, identifying features he argued could only be artificial. These included two closely spaced pillars rising to pointed peaks, a straight wall following compass direction precisely, a triangular depression appearing deliberately carved, and what looks like a pathway surrounding the structure. Kimura identified tool marks on stone surfaces, parallel grooves consistent with ancient stoneworking techniques. He found drainage channels preventing water accumulation on terraces, what appear to be post holes carved into rock, and a feature he calls the stadium, a large rectangular depression with stepped seating surrounding a flat central floor. The dating makes Yonaguni truly controversial. The structure sits on stone that was above sea level during the last ice age, before oceans rose approximately 10,000 years ago. If artificial, it was built at least 10,000 years ago, roughly 5,000 years before Egyptian pyramids and 6,000 years before Stonehenge. At that time, humans in this region were supposedly primitive hunter-gatherers incapable of monumental construction. Skeptics argue the monument is natural, formed by sandstone fracturing along natural joints. Geologist Robert Schoch visited the site and concluded that while some features appeared artificial, natural processes could explain most of the structure. But Kimura's supporters point out features natural fracturing cannot explain. The twin pillars are separated from the main structure, yet perfectly aligned with other features. The triangle pool is carved at consistent depth, with walls meeting at precise angles. If natural, it would be a unique geological formation with no parallels anywhere in the world. What's intriguing is the cultural context. Local traditions speak of a palace of the gods swallowed by the ocean in ancient times. Similar legends exist throughout Polynesia and Southeast Asia. Stories of advanced civilizations destroyed by rising waters. The Japanese government has shown little interest in investigating further, and the site remains largely unstudied by mainstream archaeologists. Whether natural or artificial, the Yonaguni Monument challenges our assumptions. Something remarkable lies beneath these waters, something that demands explanation. The Bimini Road. In September 1968, underwater archaeologist J. Manson Valentine was diving off North Bimini in the Bahamas when he encountered something extraordinary: a half-mile-long formation of massive limestone blocks, arranged in what appeared to be a paved road, lying in about 18 feet of water. The discovery would become known as the Bimini Road. The structure consists of roughly rectangular blocks, some measuring up to 13 feet in length, arranged in a linear pattern. The blocks fit together with minimal gaps, and many show signs of deliberate shaping: squared edges, flat surfaces, and consistent thickness. At certain points, the road curves deliberately, and smaller stones fill gaps between larger blocks, suggesting intentional construction. What made the discovery sensational was a prediction by American psychic Edgar Cayce in 1938, claiming evidence of Atlantis would be discovered near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. When Valentine found the Bimini Road in September 1968, believers declared it proof of Atlantis. The initial scientific response was dismissive. Geologists argued it was simply beach rock, limestone sediments cementing together naturally. Case closed, according to mainstream science. But subsequent investigations raised troubling questions. In 1978, Dr. David Zink led an expedition documenting features inconsistent with natural formation. His team found blocks arranged in multiple layers, with smaller stones deliberately placed beneath larger ones. A construction technique, not natural deposition. They discovered tool marks and what appeared to be tongue-and-groove joints connecting some blocks. Core samples yielded contradictory results. Some showed uniform composition expected from beach rock. Others revealed blocks had been formed elsewhere and transported, inconsistent with natural formation. The depth presents another puzzle. The stones lie in water that would have been dry land approximately 10,000, 12,000 years ago. If constructed when above water, it would date to a period when no American civilization was supposedly capable of such construction. In 2005, researchers using side-scan sonar discovered additional structures nearby: rectangular formations, circular arrangements, and what appeared to be building foundations. A rectangular structure discovered in 2006, measuring approximately 60 by 45 feet, shows what appear to be interior divisions, walls within walls, suggesting a building rather than natural formation. The Bimini Road remains officially unexplained. Mainstream archaeology continues classifying it as natural beach rock, but this rests on studies from the 1970s using limited technology. Modern remote sensing techniques haven't been systematically applied, and no comprehensive archaeological excavation has ever been conducted. The Gulf of Cambay discovery. In December 2001, oceanographers from India's National Institute of Ocean Technology were conducting routine pollution surveys in the Gulf of Cambay off Gujarat when their sonar detected something unexpected: geometric patterns on the seafloor that appeared to be a vast city's ruins, lying 120 feet beneath the surface. The sonar images showed what looked like a city grid: streets intersecting at right angles, rectangular structures, and larger formations suggesting temples. The formations stretched approximately 5 miles long and 2 miles wide, far larger than any known ancient city in the region. Initial skepticism gave way to astonishment when researchers began dredging the site. They recovered hundreds of artifacts: pottery fragments, beads, carved stones, jewelry, and pieces of wood and bone that could be carbon dated. The results were extraordinary. Wood samples tested at approximately 9,500 years old, placing the city's existence thousands of years before the earliest known Indian civilizations. This dating would make the Gulf of Cambay structures the oldest known city in the world, predating Sumerian civilization by 4,000 years, and the Indus Valley civilization by 5,000 years. The artifacts suggested sophisticated culture. Pottery fragments showed wheel-thrown construction, supposedly not developed until thousands of years later. Beads were made from non-local materials, suggesting long-distance trade. Carved stones displayed geometric patterns consistent with religious purpose. However, the discovery faced criticism. Some scientists argued dredged artifacts could have washed from more recent settlements and mixed with older material. Others questioned whether carbon dating was conducted properly. Dr. S.R. Rao, former director of the Archaeological Survey of India, examined the evidence and concluded the site merited serious investigation. He noted geometric patterns visible on sonar were too regular and extensive to be natural. Indian mythology contains numerous references to ancient cities swallowed by the sea. The legend of Dwarka, Krishna's golden city that sank beneath waves, is among the most famous. Some researchers proposed the Gulf of Cambay discovery might be the historical basis for these legends. Subsequent surveys using sophisticated sonar confirmed the geometric nature of seafloor formations. Researchers identified what appeared to be a large stepped structure and what looked like a harbor system. The site showed signs of urban planning. Despite these findings, the Indian government has been slow to fund comprehensive investigation. The site lies in deep, murky water with strong currents, making traditional underwater archaeology difficult and expensive. The Cuba underwater city. In 2001, a Canadian company called Advanced Digital Communications was working with Cuba's government to survey the seafloor off Cuba's western coast, searching for colonial-era shipwrecks. Using sophisticated side-scan sonar, they discovered something far stranger: geometric structures lying at approximately 2,000 to 2,500 feet depth. The sonar images showed what appeared to be pyramids, rectangular buildings, and structures arranged in a grid pattern covering about 2 square kilometers. The formations displayed clear geometric regularity, right angles, straight lines, and symmetric shapes suggesting deliberate construction. Engineer Polina Zalitsky described the images as showing a very complex structure that looks like it could have been a large urban development. Subsequent exploration using a remotely operated vehicle captured video footage showing massive stone blocks with smooth surfaces, structures appearing to be carved with symbols, and what looked like roadways connecting formations. One structure appeared to be a stepped pyramid similar to Mesoamerican architecture. The depth makes this seemingly impossible. At 2,500 feet below sea level, these structures would have been above water only during periods when sea levels were dramatically lower, potentially 50,000 years ago. No known human civilization could have existed then. Even during the last glacial maximum, approximately 20,000 years ago, waters would have been only about 400 feet lower, not nearly enough to expose terrain 2,000 feet deep. For these structures to have been built on dry land would require either catastrophic geological subsidence or construction during a period so ancient it challenges our entire understanding of human development. Marine geologist Manuel Iturralde Vinent examined the sonar data and concluded the formations warranted serious investigation, noting that the combination of features was extremely unusual for natural formations. The Cuban government initially showed interest, but after 2002, information about the site virtually disappeared. Zalitsky's company was reportedly denied permission for additional surveys, and Cuban officials stopped commenting. No peer-reviewed research was ever published. This silence has fueled speculation about why the discovery was buried. Some suggest the implications were too controversial for official acknowledgement. Others propose more mundane explanations: budget constraints, or technical difficulties. Zalitsky mentioned recovering stone samples appearing to be polished granite, not native to the region. She described inscriptions resembling both Mesoamerican and Mediterranean writing systems. She expressed frustration that the scientific community showed no interest in investigating. The Cuba underwater city remains one of the most tantalizing and least investigated anomalies in marine archaeology, demanding investigation that has never been conducted. The Lake Michigan Stone Circle. In 2007, underwater archaeologists from Northwestern Michigan College were using sonar to survey Grand Traverse Bay in Lake Michigan, mapping potential shipwreck sites when they detected something unexpected: a circular arrangement of stones 40 feet below the surface bearing uncanny resemblance to Stonehenge. The formation consists of roughly 40 large stones arranged in a circle approximately 40 feet in diameter. The stones appear deliberately placed at regular intervals, with several larger stones positioned at points suggesting astronomical alignment. Most remarkably, one stone appears to bear a carving of a mastodon, an elephant-like creature extinct approximately 10,000 years ago. The implications were immediately apparent. If the stones were placed deliberately, and if the carving is genuinely ancient, the formation would date to at least 10,000 years ago, predating Stonehenge by roughly 5,000 years. At that time, the Great Lakes region was emerging from the Ice Age, and Grand Traverse Bay would have been dry land. Whoever built this stone circle would have done so while mastodons still roamed. Dr. Mark Hawley, who led the survey team, was cautious, noting that while the formation appeared artificial, definitive conclusions couldn't be drawn from sonar alone. The alleged mastodon carving required direct examination. The problem was, the site lies on land belonging to the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians, and tribal authorities were reluctant to allow invasive investigation. Native American groups expressed concern the site might be a sacred ancestral location that should remain undisturbed. What information exists suggests the formation is genuinely anomalous. The stones are arranged too regularly for natural glacial deposition. Their size and placement suggest deliberate human positioning. The depth corresponds to land exposed during the late glacial period. The mastodon carving, if authentic, would be particularly significant. One of the earliest examples of animal art in North America, confirming humans were present while mastodons still lived. Native American oral histories include accounts of ancestors who lived on lands now underwater, and stone monuments built by ancient peoples later submerged. These accounts cannot be verified archaeologically, but they suggest cultural memory of when the Great Lakes region looked very different. The Lake Michigan stone circle remains in archaeological limbo, intriguing enough to warrant investigation, but protected from research that could resolve its mysteries. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. In June 2011, Swedish ocean exploration company Ocean X Team was conducting sonar surveys in the Baltic Sea between Sweden and Finland when they detected a massive circular object on the seafloor at approximately 285 feet depth. The formation measured roughly 200 feet in diameter, with features that defied easy explanation. The initial sonar images showed a disc-shaped object with what appeared to be a long drag mark trailing behind it across the seafloor, as if something had crashed or been dragged. The object appeared to have regular geometric features, including what looked like steps or terraces, angular formations, and a central dome-like structure. When the team returned in 2012 with diving equipment and ROVs, footage only deepened the mystery. The object appeared made of stone or concrete-like material, with surfaces showing right angles and deliberate construction. Divers reported electrical equipment malfunctioning when approaching. Lights flickered, satellite phones stopped working, and cameras experienced interference. Recovered samples suggested volcanic rock with unusual properties, including small amounts of metal not typically found in natural Baltic formations. One sample appeared to show burn marks from extreme heat. Another contained organic material dating to approximately 14,000 years ago. The dating created an immediate problem. 14,000 years ago, this area would have been covered by Ice Age glaciers. If the organic material was from the object's construction, it would have been built either beneath or on top of a massive ice sheet, seemingly impossible. Some researchers proposed the anomaly was a glacial deposit, but this failed to account for the object's geometric regularity, apparent drag mark, and unusual composition. Others suggested natural pillow-basalt formation, but pillow-basalts don't typically form single 200-foot circular structures with geometric features. More speculative theories emerged. Some noted the location corresponded with areas where Nazi Germany conducted secret weapon tests. Could it be remains of an experimental aircraft? The UFO theory, while dismissed by mainstream scientists, gained traction in popular media. What's most frustrating is how little investigation has followed. The Ocean X team was commercial, not scientific, and their work was driven by media interest rather than academic rigor. No university or government agency has conducted systematic research. The samples have never been subjected to comprehensive peer-reviewed analysis. The Baltic Sea anomaly represents a failure of scientific curiosity. Whatever the object is, it deserves serious investigation that has never been done. The Dwarka Ruins. Off the coast of Gujarat, India, beneath the waters of the Arabian Sea, lies what may be the remains of one of the world's oldest cities, a site that Indian tradition has revered for millennia as the legendary kingdom of Lord Krishna. The underwater ruins of Dwarka challenge not only archaeological timelines, but also the boundary between mythology and history. Ancient Hindu texts, particularly the Mahabharata, describe Dwarka as a magnificent city built by the architect of the gods. The texts claim Krishna established Dwarka as his capital, constructing it on land reclaimed from the sea with walls of gold and silver, palaces of precious gems, and harbors filled with trading vessels from across the world. When Krishna died, the texts say, the sea rose and swallowed Dwarka whole, leaving no trace of its glory. For centuries, scholars dismissed Dwarka as pure mythology, a symbolic city representing spiritual concepts rather than historical reality. Then, in 1963, marine archaeologist S.R. Rao began conducting systematic surveys off the coast of modern Dwarka. What he found transformed mythology into potential history. Rao's surveys identified massive stone walls, pillars, and architectural foundations beneath the waves, spread across an area of approximately 1/2 square mile. The structures showed signs of deliberate construction, cut blocks fitted together, walls oriented along consistent axes, and what appeared to be gateways and harbor installations. Artifacts recovered from the site included pottery, anchors, and carved stones bearing inscriptions. The ruins extended to a depth of about 70 feet, a depth that would have been above water roughly 9,000 years ago during the early Holocene period. If the structures dated from this period, Dwarka would be among the oldest known cities in the world, contemporary with or older than the first Mesopotamian settlements. Subsequent investigations recovered additional artifacts that complicated the timeline. Some pottery fragments were dated to approximately 3,500 years ago, consistent with the Late Bronze Age, but the architectural foundations appeared older, suggesting the site had been occupied across multiple periods, or that a later settlement had been built on top of much more ancient foundations. In 2002, marine archaeologists discovered what appeared to be a second, deeper site approximately 25 miles offshore. Using acoustic imaging, they identified geometric structures at depths of over 100 feet, structures that would have been above water 10,000, 12,000 years ago. If these deeper formations are artificial, they would represent construction from the end of the Ice Age, when sea levels were still rising from their glacial minimum. The implications are staggering. The Mahabharata is traditionally dated to events occurring around 3000 BCE, but some scholars using astronomical references in the text have proposed dates as early as 5000 BCE. If Dwarka was a real city that sank beneath the sea thousands of years before these dates, the mythological accounts might preserve memories of an even older civilization, one that flourished and disappeared before recorded history began. Indian mythology is filled with references to advanced ancient civilizations, aerial vehicles called vimanas, and weapons of mass destruction. Mainstream scholars interpret these accounts as religious symbolism or imagination. But if Dwarka is real, if its underwater ruins date to the period suggested by their depth, then perhaps other elements of Indian mythology also preserve historical memories transformed by millennia of retelling. The government of India has funded ongoing underwater archaeological research at Dwarka, making it one of the few underwater anomaly sites receiving serious institutional attention. But the work is slow, hampered by murky waters, strong currents, and the sheer extent of the submerged area requiring investigation. What has been confirmed is remarkable enough. A substantial ancient settlement lies beneath the Arabian Sea at the exact location described in texts written thousands of years ago. Whether this settlement is the legendary Dwarka of Krishna, an older predecessor that inspired the legend, or something else entirely, it demonstrates that mythological accounts sometimes preserve genuine historical information across timescales previously considered impossible. The North Sea Doggerland structures. Beneath the shallow waters of the North Sea, between Britain and continental Europe, lies the drowned landscape of Doggerland, a vast territory that was dry land during the last ice age, home to thriving communities of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers. As climate warmed and glaciers melted, the sea gradually reclaimed Doggerland, transforming a populated landscape into a sandy seabed. But recent discoveries suggest Doggerland may have been home to more sophisticated construction than archaeologists ever imagined. Doggerland is well documented archaeologically. For decades, fishing boats have dredged up artifacts from the North Sea floor, flint tools, animal bones, and human remains dating from 10,000 to 8,000 years ago. Geological surveys have mapped the drowned landscape in detail, identifying ancient river valleys, forests, and areas of human settlement. The people of Doggerland were hunter-gatherers, according to mainstream archaeology, mobile groups following game and gathering wild foods with no permanent settlements or monumental construction. But in 2015, researchers from the University of Bradford analyzing high-resolution sonar data identified anomalous features that challenge this picture. In an area of the southern North Sea, they detected geometric patterns that appeared to show artificial structures, rectangular formations, linear arrangements, and what looked like deliberate positioning of large stones. The formations lay in water approximately 120 feet deep, in areas that would have been dry land around 8,500 years ago. The researchers were cautious about their interpretation, noting that natural geological processes could potentially create geometric patterns. But The formations showed regularity that was difficult to explain naturally. Several rectangular features appeared to be oriented along consistent compass directions. Linear arrangements extended for hundreds of feet without deviation. Circular formations appeared at regular intervals, suggesting deliberate placement. Subsequent analysis using different sonar frequencies revealed additional anomalies. Some formations appeared to have layered structure, blocks or stones stacked on top of each other. Others showed what looked like dressed surfaces, flat, smooth areas created by deliberate shaping rather than natural erosion. One formation appeared to include a central mound surrounded by a circular ditch or moat. If these formations are artificial, they would represent Mesolithic construction far more sophisticated than anything previously attributed to Doggerland's inhabitants. The scale of some features suggests organized labor, communities working together on projects too large for single families. The geometric regularity implies planning and measurement. The orientation along compass directions might indicate astronomical purpose. The timing is also significant. Doggerland was flooded gradually over approximately 2,000 years as sea levels rose following the Ice Age. The inhabitants would have watched their homeland slowly disappearing, their ancestors' territories becoming tidal flats, then shallow seas, then open water. Archaeological evidence shows that Doggerland's population retreated to higher ground as the sea advanced, eventually reaching the coastlines of both modern Britain and Europe. Could the geometric formations represent the final constructions of a drowning civilization, monuments built on the last remaining high ground before the sea claimed everything? Or could they date from earlier periods when Doggerland was firmly above water, suggesting more complex societies existed longer ago than currently believed? The British government has shown limited interest in investigating the Doggerland anomalies. The formations lie in international waters, complicating questions of jurisdiction and funding. Commercial interests, fishing, shipping, and offshore energy take priority over archaeological curiosity. No systematic underwater investigation has been conducted. Meanwhile, climate change is affecting the North Sea floor. Increased storm activity is disturbing seafloor sediments, potentially destroying archaeological evidence before it can be studied. Erosion is exposing new artifacts, but also scattering them from their original contexts. The window for investigating Doggerland's secrets may be closing. The drowned landscape beneath the North Sea represents one of Europe's greatest archaeological treasures, a frozen moment in time from the end of the Ice Age. If it also contains evidence of sophisticated construction, it would transform our understanding of Mesolithic societies. But without investigation, the geometric anomalies detected by sonar remain unexplained, tantalizing hints of mysteries we may never solve. The Rock Lake Pyramids. In south-central Wisconsin, beneath the waters of Rock Lake, local legends have long spoken of stone pyramids resting on the lake bottom. For more than a century, fishermen, divers, and researchers have reported seeing geometric structures in the murky depths. Structures that mainstream archaeology has consistently dismissed as misidentification or hoax. But accumulating evidence suggests something genuinely anomalous lies beneath Rock Lake's surface. The first documented sighting came in 1900, when duck hunters reported seeing stone structures through the ice during an unusually clear winter. They described pyramid-shaped formations and what appeared to be walls extending across the lake bottom. When they returned in spring to investigate by boat, the murky water obscured any view of the structures. Similar sightings have been reported repeatedly over the following decades. Divers have described encountering stone mounds, linear arrangements of rocks, and what appear to be deliberately constructed walls. Aerial photographs taken in the 1930s, when drought lowered lake levels, appeared to show geometric shadows on the lake bottom. Sonar surveys in the 1990s detected multiple conical formations consistent with pyramidal structures. The most systematic investigation came in 1998, when researchers Frank Joseph and William Kennedy conducted extensive sonar mapping of the lake. They identified at least 10 major anomalies on the lake bottom, including what appeared to be a large tent-shaped structure approximately 60 feet long at its base, a conical formation resembling a stepped pyramid, and linear arrangements of stones extending hundreds of feet across the lake floor. The depth of these formations, between 40 and 60 feet, corresponds to lake levels during the late Pleistocene or early Holocene, approximately 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. At that time, what is now Rock Lake would have been dry land or shallow marsh, recently emerged from the retreating glaciers. The indigenous peoples of this period, the Clovis and later Paleo-Indian cultures, are not traditionally credited with monumental construction. Local Native American traditions offer a different perspective. The Ho-Chunk people, whose ancestors inhabited the Rock Lake region for thousands of years, have stories of rock teepees built by ancient peoples beneath the water. Their oral histories describe a time when the lake was smaller or didn't exist, when stone structures were built on what is now the lake bottom. These traditions were recorded by anthropologists long before modern investigations of the lake, suggesting they aren't responses to contemporary anomaly claims. Skeptics argue that the Rock Lake pyramids are glacial deposits, piles of rocks left behind by retreating ice sheets. Glaciers do create mounds, ridges, and geometric-looking formations as they melt and dump their accumulated debris. Without direct examination of the structures, it's impossible to determine whether they're natural glacial features or artificial constructions. The difficulty lies in Rock Lake's unusually murky water. The lake has extremely limited visibility, often less than 10 feet, making visual inspection of the structures difficult. Divers report spending entire dives searching for formations they know exist, from sonar without ever seeing them. Attempts to photograph the structures have produced only vague, inconclusive images. Modern technology offers potential solutions. Ground-penetrating sonar and LiDAR can image underwater structures in detail regardless of water clarity. Remotely operated vehicles with artificial lightings could capture clear video of the formations. But conducting such surveys requires funding, and Rock Lake has attracted little institutional interest. The pyramids of Rock Lake remain in the frustrating category of potentially significant anomalies that haven't been adequately investigated. Local researchers continue conducting surveys and dives, slowly accumulating evidence. But without the resources of major institutions, progress is slow. The structures, whatever they are, continue to sit in darkness on the lake bottom, waiting for investigation that may never come. The Atlit Yam Settlement. Off Atlit, Israel's coast, approximately 10 meters beneath the Mediterranean, lies one of the world's most remarkable underwater archaeological sites. One raising profound questions about sea level rise, ancient civilizations, and what we might find beneath waves worldwide. Atlit Yam was discovered in 1984 by marine archaeologist Ehud Galili during routine surveys. What he found was extraordinary. A Neolithic village preserved in astonishing detail, complete with houses, storage facilities, wells, and residence remains from approximately 9,000 years ago. Unlike most underwater ruins showing extensive damage, Atlit Yam is remarkably intact. The site was covered by sand shortly after submersion, creating an anaerobic environment preserving organic materials with unusual completeness. Excavations recovered entire house foundations, complete wells with wooden linings, stone walls, and food storage containers still containing original contents. The sophistication revealed challenges assumptions about Neolithic societies. The village shows complex social organization, including specialized activity areas, communal facilities, and what appears to be a ceremonial structure, a semicircle of large stones surrounding a freshwater spring. Inhabitants practiced mixed farming, herding domesticated animals, and growing cultivated crops. They engaged in long-distance trade, evidenced by obsidian tools sourced hundreds of miles away. Most significantly, researchers identified a stone-lined well penetrating approximately 10 meters into the seabed, one of the oldest known wells in the world. The engineering required, digging through soil and rock, lining the shaft with carefully fitted stones, demonstrates technical capabilities beyond what's typically attributed to people of this period. Human remains have yielded crucial insights. DNA analysis identified the earliest known tuberculosis cases in human history. Skeletal analysis revealed healthy, well-fed people living in stable communities, not the primitive, struggling existence imagined for prehistoric peoples. The site's submersion happened rapidly, likely within a few generations. Evidence suggests the village was abandoned as sea levels rose, with residents leaving behind tools, stored food, and even the dead. What makes Atlit Yam globally significant is what it suggests about other coastal regions. 9,000 years ago, sea levels were approximately 12 meters lower. Every coastline in the world has a continental shelf that was exposed dry land during this period, land attractive to human settlement due to marine resources. If Atlit Yam represents development achieved by coastal Neolithic communities, similar sites might exist on submerged coastlines worldwide. The implications are profound. If even 1% of ancient coastal settlements survive submersion, there could be thousands of Neolithic and older sites on continental shelves around the world, sites that would rewrite our understanding of early human development. These 10 underwater structures represent more than archaeological curiosities. They challenge our fundamental understanding of human history. From Yonaguni's steppe terraces to the Gulf of Cambay's grid patterns, from Cuba's impossible depth to Atlit Yam's preserved sophistication, these sites suggest human civilization may be far older and more accomplished than mainstream archaeology acknowledges. The pattern is consistent and global. On every continent, in every ocean, sonar surveys and diving expeditions have discovered geometric formations at depths requiring construction thousands of years before humans supposedly developed the ability to build. The dating is particularly troubling. Most structures lie at depths corresponding to the last ice age's end, approximately 10,000, 12,000 years ago. At that time, according to conventional archaeology, humans were primitive hunter-gatherers incapable of monumental construction. The pyramids of Egypt wouldn't be built for another 5,000 years. Yet underwater evidence suggests someone was building massive stone structures during this period. 3 possibilities present themselves. First, the structures are natural formations, coincidentally resembling artificial construction. This requires accepting that geological processes worldwide independently created geometric patterns, stepped pyramids, and grid-like arrangements that look artificial, but aren't. Second, the structures are artificial, but date from more recent periods than their depth suggests. This would require catastrophic geological events rapidly dropping structures from near-surface positions, events occurring independently worldwide while leaving no other geological evidence. Third, the structures are exactly what they appear to be, evidence that sophisticated human civilizations existed far earlier than mainstream archaeology admits. This possibility challenges everything we know about human development, but aligns with mythology from cultures worldwide, which consistently describe great civilizations destroyed by flooding. What's most disturbing is the institutional response. With few exceptions, these sites have been ignored, dismissed, or suppressed by academic archaeology. The Cuba underwater city was investigated once and never again. The Baltic Sea anomaly has never received formal study. The Lake Michigan stone circle remains off limits. This resistance suggests the implications are too threatening to confront. If humanity built sophisticated structures 10,000 years ago, entire academic disciplines would need revision. Textbooks would require rewriting. The institutional incentives favor dismissal over investigation. But evidence doesn't disappear because we refuse to examine it. The structures remain on ocean floors, visible to anyone with sonar equipment. The geometric patterns are real. The anomalous depths are measurable. Science has tools to resolve these mysteries. What's lacking is will. Perhaps the most important lesson is humility. Our understanding of human history is based on a fraction of available evidence. Most archaeological sites on ancient coastlines are now underwater and have never been surveyed. We have explored more of the moon's surface than Earth's ocean floor. The underwater structures are waiting. They've waited for thousands of years, preserved beneath waves while civilizations rose and fell. They'll continue waiting while we debate whether to investigate, deny their significance, or finally acknowledge that human history may be far longer, far stranger, and far more accomplished than we ever imagined.